if you find the summaries interesting. The film begins with Elizabeth, a middle-aged woman working in a high school. She should be responsible and attentive because of her job, but in reality she is careless and ignorant. She often scolds her students and makes them watch videos instead of teaching them. Elizabeth is often under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Her main goal in life is to marry a rich man and take all his money. Elizabeth is now dating the son of a rich businessman. Everything was going well until one day she decided she didn't want the job and quit. However, when she got home, her boyfriend and mother were waiting for her. Her boyfriend told her that he didn't want to marry her anymore because he knew she only cared about his money. He found out that Elizabeth had been stealing money from him and his mother to buy expensive things for herself. Elizabeth tries to explain, but he doesn't listen and storms off. Elizabeth's dream of wealth is shattered and she is now unemployed. She had been looking for a new job for months, but no one would hire her because she didn't have the skills. She finally swallowed her pride and returned to her high school career. On her first day back, she meets her old rival Amy Squirrel and they insult each other. It is true that they hated each other. The students in his class were happy to see him again, but he didn't care. He doesn't go to school, but he eats breakfast in class. When students came into class, he would turn on the TV and let them watch the movie Stand and Send, hoping it would help their grades. He then covered his face with his shirt and slept through lunch. Elizabeth is with her only friend and teacher at school, Lynn. They talk about their lives and Elizabeth says that she plans to get breast augmentation surgery to make herself more beautiful and attract rich men. We then meet Russell, the gym teacher at school. He has always had a crush on Elizabeth, but he has never been interested in her because she is not rich, and that is the only quality in a man that she values. One day, a handsome man named Scott starts working as a substitute teacher at the school. When Elizabeth saw that he was rich, she immediately took a liking to him. Inevitably, she ran into him and he put himself out there. Cleverly, she learned that he was single and had recently broken up with his girlfriend and showed Elizabeth a photo of him. Elizabeth was jealous of her ex-girlfriend's big breasts and thought that Scott liked women like that. Determined to get his attention, Elizabeth decided to have breast augmentation surgery. Elizabeth went to the hospital to have $9,000 she left because she didn't have much money. Since she only had $50 in her account, she had to find another way to keep her money safe. That night, she called all her friends and acquaintances to ask for donations, but they all remained loyal because they knew her truth. Later, Elizabeth called her ex-boyfriend and asked for $9,000 as compensation for breaking up with him, but he refused and called her back. The next morning in class, the students told her that their class had participated in a car wash and had won $6,000 last year. Elizabeth is immediately affected when she learns that her enemy Amy is responsible for the situation. She decides to take action. Elizabeth comes to the manager's office and seduces him with her face. When she is happy, she asks him to wash the car at Amy's house. The manager agrees without hesitation. The next morning, Elizabeth arrived at the event wearing a fancy dress. She started washing the car and splashing water on it to attract attention. The women around were all shocked, but the men seemed pleased. Even the police were mesmerized by her beauty and her car crashed into another car. Elizabeth then asked the men for more money, claiming that the school needed more money for the students. Surprisingly, the plan worked and she raised around $10,000. Elizabeth donated half of it to the school and kept the rest a secret. Meanwhile, Amy caught wind of the situation and went to see the administrator who was using the bathroom and was really upset about the sudden invasion of privacy. Amy claims that Elizabeth stole the school's money and demands that she be punished. However, the director said that nothing could be done unless there was clear evidence against her. The next day, the school will be holding its annual parent conference. As expected, many parents were in Elizabeth's class, and they were all angry about the education their children were receiving. They questioned Elizabeth, asking her to explain why she didn't assign homework and always made videos in class. She simply said, "Don't tell me how to do my job." After a while, the concerned husband stole $200 and told her to take care of her son. This gave our cunning hero another idea. She met with the children's parents one by one and promised to take care of them in exchange for money. Elizabeth is now only $2,000 short of her breast surgery. As the days passed, she was still irresponsible and ignored her students. Elizabeth also rejected the advances of fitness trainer Russell. However, she became friends with him. At the same time, Amy started proposing to the rich and handsome Scott. The two have a good relationship and are always together, which makes Elizabeth jealous. One day, she heard from her best friend Lynn that there was a competition for teachers at school. The person with the highest score on the upcoming state exam will receive an additional $5,000. Elizabeth was very happy to hear this and finally decided to give the students a lesson. So from the next day onwards, she came to class early and forced everyone to open their books, which surprised everyone. Elizabeth also gave them homework and chores. She didn't allow them to talk in class. This continued for several days, and the students' grades improved. However, this was still not enough to pass the national exam that was to be held a few days later. Elizabeth wanted to win the $5,000 prize, so she decided to take matters into her own hands. That night, she dressed and went to Professor Carr, who was in charge of preparing and distributing the exams. The plan was successful, and he was immediately delighted and brought her to him. When they go to the bedroom to get ready, Elizabeth puts a sleeping pill in Carl's drink, which he then drinks and passes out. Elizabeth used this opportunity to steal the questions and give them to her students. The results will be announced next week, and she will be declared the winner by successfully passing all the students. Elizabeth won $5,000, which meant she finally had enough money for the surgery, so she rushed to the hospital to make an appointment. However, the next day she is shocked to learn that Scott is now dating Amy. It looks like love. Elizabeth is furious that her plan was thwarted by her enemies, but she still doesn't want to give up. Next week, the school is taking all the students on a field trip with Scott and Amy in charge. When Elizabeth finds out, she comes up with a clever idea. Knowing that Amy loved the fruit, he injected something into the liquid and placed it on Amy's desk. As expected, Amy took a bite of the juice without asking where it came from. By nightfall, her face was covered in rashes and allergies. The principal was worried that this could spread to the students, so he arranged for Elizabeth to go on a school trip in her place. In the ensuing events, Elizabeth takes full advantage of this opportunity and becomes close to Scott. They even had sex somewhere else that night. Amy becomes jealous and starts looking for evidence that Elizabeth was expelled. She goes to the classroom and looks through her desk, but most of the drawers are closed. Amy then swaps the desk with Elizabeth's and asks the butler to open the drawers. She is delighted to find the test papers that Elizabeth stole from Carl. Amy then goes to the principal's office and tells him how Elizabeth lied to help her students get good grades. This time, the principal believes her, but Carl says he can kill Elizabeth if she doesn't confirm the story. The same day, Amy meets Carl in his office and blackmails him into confessing everything. She warns him that she will reveal all his crimes if he doesn't. The poor guy reluctantly agrees. Elsewhere on the tour, Elizabeth has fun with the students. She helps a bully become famous by giving him underwear. Russell is ecstatic. He admires Elizabeth's generosity, and Elizabeth admires him in return for his honesty and good looks. However, their romantic relationship is badly interrupted when Amy arrives on the scene and tells Elizabeth that she will soon be arrested. Hearing this, the protagonist realizes that the stolen data has been discovered and formulates his plan. When he arrives home, he pays for his friend's room and tells him to deliver the package to Earl. When the latter receives the package and opens it, he finds several nude photos of Elizabeth, apparently taken while she was unconscious, to make a false confession in exchange for keeping the secret photos. This puts Carl in a very difficult position, as the two women blackmail him with their demands. After careful consideration, the administrator went with Elizabeth and lied about never meeting her. Elizabeth later accused someone at school of using drugs in class. When she left, she noticed that Amy had switched desks. The bottom drawer contained lab supplies, and the top drawer contained drugs that Amy did not know about. According to Elizabeth, the police came to the school and began searching the desk. When they arrived at Amy's desk, they found drugs and Amy was taken into custody. The conflict between Elizabeth and Amy is over. In the last scene, Scott approaches Elizabeth and tells her that he likes her and asks her out. Surprisingly, Elizabeth rejects him. She says that she is with a smart, loving, beautiful man and begins a new relationship. Elizabeth also canceled plans for breast surgery, saying she did not want to seduce rich men.